You ever notice how people think winning feels like fireworks, like parades, like cheers echoing in the night? But when the dust settles, when the last handclap fades, all you hear is silence. That's the part no one tells you about. You spend your life chasing, clawing, bleeding for the finish line, and when you finally crawl across it, there's no grand orchestra waiting. Just you, your breath, and the eerie quiet that follows. Winning isn't the explosion. It's the emptiness afterward. It's the realization that the mountain you conquered doesn't cheer for you. It just stands there, indifferent, waiting for the next fool to climb. Victory is such a funny word, isn't it? People like to dress it up in confetti and fireworks. Like it's this grand parade where everyone is clapping and you're standing there with a smile plastered on your face, pretending you've reached the peak of something. But real victory, the kind no one talks about, doesn't come with balloons and banners. It comes with torn hands, sleepless nights, and a mind that's been dragged through the mud. Survival, that's the real definition of winning. You didn't outshine the crowd, you outlasted the chaos. And survival, oh, it's not glamorous. It's bloody, it's messy, and it's so very quiet. Most people will never understand it. They think victory is some polished speech or a shiny medal hanging around your neck. They imagine applause, admiration, recognition. But survival doesn't care about any of that. It cares about the fact that you didn't give up when everything inside you screamed to. It cares about how many times you wanted to quit, but your body still kept moving, even when your soul was crawling. Victory is survival, not applause, because applause fades. But survival stays etched into your skin like scars you can't wash away. Think about it. Applause is fleeting. It's a sound, an echo that bounces off the walls, and then dies out in seconds. People clap for you today, then tomorrow they've already forgotten your name. But survival, that sticks with you forever. Every bruise, every tear, every crack in your voice that nobody heard while you were fighting alone, those are the marks of victory. Nobody has to see them for them to be real. Survival is the applause of life itself. Life saying, "You didn't break, not this time." You see, applause is external, survival is internal. Applause is a performance, survival is the raw, unfiltered truth. When you're lying on the floor, heart racing, mind screaming, body refusing to move, and still, somehow, you get up, tell me, what stage could ever compare to that? Who needs clapping hands when your very existence is proof that you fought back against something that wanted to bury you? Survival doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need a spotlight. It doesn't need validation. Survival only needs you, breathing, standing, even if you're shaking. Especially if you're shaking. The world doesn't care about your survival, but you do. They only see results, not the battles. They only see you standing, not the storms you crawl through to get there. They only cheer when you cross the finish line. But they never saw the nights you wanted to burn the whole race down just to escape it. They clap when they see you win. But they never clap for the days you dragged yourself out of bed when your chest was heavy like concrete. And that's why applause means nothing. Because if you depended on it, you'd have quit long before you made it here. Victory is survival, and survival is lonely. It doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like exhaustion. It feels like the world wanted you gone, and you said no. It feels like the end of a battle. No one knew you were even fighting. Survival means you fought demons nobody clapped for. You endured storms nobody thanked you for. And maybe you'll never get the applause you think you deserve. But that's the point, because survival was never about them. It was always about you. So when you think about victory, strip away the illusion. Take away the noise, the congratulations, the stage lights. Ask yourself, are you still here? Did you keep going when you had every reason to stop? That's victory. That's the crown. Not applause, not fame, not the hollow sound of hands meeting for a moment. Victory is survival. And survival is enough. You know what's funny? People wait their whole lives to hear those words. You won. They think it'll feel like fireworks exploding in their chest, like the universe handing them a golden ticket. But when it happens, when the war is actually over, when the noise finally dies down, it doesn't feel like triumph. It feels strange, almost empty, like the silence after a storm. You expect to feel light, but instead, you feel heavy. Heavy with the weight of what you had to do to get here. Heavy with the ghosts of every moment that nearly broke you. Because winning isn't about gaining something shiny. It's about losing parts of yourself along the way and realizing you're never getting them back. Nobody tells you that. They sell you the fantasy. They say once you win, you'll feel complete. But winning doesn't complete you. It carves you open. It makes you look at your scars and wonder how much of you is left. And yet, isn't that what makes it so beautiful? The fact that you made it through hell, and even if you're not whole anymore, you're still standing. Broken, bent, twisted, but standing. And that's what the end really is. Not some neat little bow tied on top of your suffering, but the realization that you survived it. Winning means remembering every loss, every failure that dragged you down, every night you thought about giving up, every voice that told you you couldn't do it. Winning doesn't erase those moments. It makes them louder, echoes bouncing in your skull. But now, when you hear them, you can laugh, because you didn't stop there. You didn't freeze in the middle of the darkness. You pushed through it. And maybe that's what victory really is. Looking back at the monsters that tried to kill you and realizing they're nothing but shadows now. But let's not pretend it's all glory. Winning costs you. Sometimes it costs relationships, sometimes your health, sometimes your mind. Nobody wins without bleeding somewhere. Nobody wins without nights they regret, choices they hate, moments they wish they could take back. That's the toll. That's the price of getting to the end. And the truth is, most people aren't willing to pay it. They want the victory without the pain, the trophy without the battle, the joy without the chaos. But that's not how it works. If you're here, if you've won, then you know exactly what it cost you. and you carry it like a weight strapped to your back. And when it's over, when you finally hear, it's all over, you realize something else. Winning isn't the end of pain. It's the beginning of understanding. You start to see that every scar is a lesson, every wound a map, every failure a step. You start to understand that the prize isn't the victory itself. It's who you became on the way here. Stronger, sharper, a little more dangerous, maybe even a little colder. Because to win, you had to harden yourself. To win, you had to shade the skin of who you used to be. The strangest part, after all of it, the world doesn't really change. The sun still rises, people still complain, life still goes on like it always did. The world doesn't stop for your victory. It doesn't bend or bow. And maybe that's the most sobering realization. You did all this for you. Not for applause, not for recognition, not for the parade, for you. And when it's finally over, when the dust settles, you sit there in the silence and you realize you didn't win because life crowned you. You won because you refused to lose. And that's the kind of victory nobody can take away. People think the real fight is outside. They think it's about enemies, about rivals, about proving the world wrong. But the truth is, the deadliest battle is the one nobody sees, the war inside your own skull, the whispers in the dark, the voices telling you you're not enough, the doubts that wrap around your throat tighter than any rope. That's the real battlefield. And the cruel joke. Most people lose before they even step foot outside. They surrender to themselves. They let fear chain them, let guilt bury them, let insecurity strangle them. No enemy needs to touch them, because they've already folded from the inside out. You ever notice how loud silence gets when you're alone? That's when the real fight happens. Not when you're surrounded by people cheering or booing, but when it's just you in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying every failure, every mistake, every what if. That's where most people break. That's where they decide whether to keep going or let the darkness eat them alive. And the terrifying part, nobody else will ever know what you fought through. They'll just see the smile, the mask, the performance. They'll never understand how many times you were seconds away from throwing it all away. But the funny thing about pain, it doesn't just destroy, it builds. Every scar in your mind, every sleepless night, every breakdown, it carves something into you. It makes you sharper. It forces you to see the truth about yourself. Weakness isn't the thoughts that scare you. It's believing those thoughts. Strength isn't never feeling fear. It's staring fear in the face and walking forward anyway. And once you realize that, once you understand that the war inside is nothing but shadows trying to trick you, you become dangerous. Because now nothing outside can break you if you've already beaten the thing inside. Think about it. How many people do you know who never really live because they're too busy fighting themselves? They never take the leap, never chase the dream, never risk the fall. Because they're stuck in a prison they built out of their own doubts. And you can see it in their eyes. They walk around every day already defeated, already convinced they can't win. That's not life. That's a slow death. And you've been there. You've felt it. You know what it's like to drag yourself through the mud of your own thoughts. To feel like your mind is both the cage and the executioner. But here's the twist. When you finally choose to fight back, when you refuse to let those voices dictate your future, you realize the war inside was the preparation. Every moment of doubt was training. Every breakdown was rehearsal. Every scream into the pillow, every silent tear, every night you cursed yourself, it was building something. It was creating a version of you strong enough to face what comes next. And that's why you had to go through it. Because if you can't survive yourself, you'll never survive the world. The battle inside is the cruelest, but it's also the most necessary. It teaches you resilience the hard way. It strips you bare until there's nothing left but the raw truth of who you are. And when you crawl out of it, when you finally win against yourself, you walk differently. You breathe differently. You look at people differently. Because you know most of them are still fighting wars they'll never admit to. You know most of them are crumbling under the weight of their own minds. And while they hide it behind fake smiles, you carry your scars openly, and that makes you untouchable. The irony is, people will call you lucky. They'll say you've got some special strength, some gift they don't. They'll never understand that what they're admiring is built from nights of torment, days of doubt, endless battles with yourself. They'll never see the war you won in silence. But that's fine, because you'll know. You'll know the victory that matters isn't on a stage, or in a bank account, or in applause. The victory that matters is the one you win when nobody's watching, when nobody believes in you, not even yourself. That's the kind of win that changes everything. People love to act like destiny is some grand, shining staircase laid out before them, polished and clean, waiting for them to simply stroll up with a smile. But the truth is, destiny is hidden in dirt, buried under rubble, disguised as chaos. It's not wrapped in golden ribbons. It's covered in blood, sweat, and scars. That's why most people never find it. They're too busy waiting for it to look pretty. Too busy expecting it to come with applause and approval. They don't realize it's supposed to look like pain first. They don't realize it's supposed to break you before it builds you. You think you're walking through setbacks, but you're actually walking through shaping. Every no you hear, every door slammed in your face, every moment you feel abandoned, it's the hammer hitting the steel. And what do you do with steel? You forge it in fire. You bend it, you beat it. You burn it until it's strong enough to hold weight. And if life is treating you rough, if life is tearing you apart, maybe it's because you're not glass, you're steel. You're meant to hold something heavy, and heavy things can't rest on weak foundations. Funny thing is, when you're in the middle of it, it feels like punishment. It feels like the universe is laughing at you, watching you stumble, daring you to quit. But what if the joke is on you, because all of this was training? What if all those wounds you curse are actually proof that you're being prepared for something bigger than the ones who've had it easy? Think about it. The strongest people you know didn't get there sipping tea in comfort. They got there by surviving storms that should have drowned them. They got there because every time life told them, stay down, they got up anyway. You see, destiny doesn't come with a polite knock on the door. It barges in through struggle. It disguises itself as loss. It makes you taste failure until you're sick of it, until you learn how to turn failure into fuel. And the cruel irony: most people quit right before the breakthrough. They throw away the key because the lock looked too hard. They never realized the pain was the proof. The fire was the confirmation. The suffering was the stamp of approval. You don't get chosen without scars. You don't get purpose without pressure. Every time you've cried alone, every time you've screamed at the sky asking, why me? Every time you've felt like you're cursed, it wasn't a curse. It was a calling. Life doesn't toughen the ones it doesn't need. It doesn't break down the ones it doesn't plan to use for something bigger. If you've been crushed, if you've been tested beyond reason, it's because there's something waiting for you that requires that kind of resilience. People without storms can't handle thunder. People without scars can't handle crowns. They'd break under the same weight that you're being built to carry. And here's where it gets twisted. Most people run from the very thing that would set them free. They run from the grind, from the fire, from the moments of absolute despair. They numb themselves, distract themselves, hide from themselves, and then wonder why they never feel alive. But you've been thrown into it whether you wanted it or not. You've been dragged through things that made you question everything. And instead of it killing you, it woke something up. It made you see that life's worst moments can be life's greatest gifts if you don't quit in the middle. What people don't tell you is that destiny isn't discovered in light. It's uncovered in darkness. The darkest nights, the heaviest burdens, the moments when you wanted to give up. That's where you find out who you are. That's where you discover what you're capable of. And it's messy, it's ugly. It's not the kind of story people clap for. But it's the kind of story that forges you into someone unstoppable. And maybe that's why the pain doesn't stop. Because you're not meant to be soft. You're meant to be unbreakable. Winning isn't about shiny medals or golden trophies. It's about the scars you carry that nobody claps for. The ones on your body, the ones on your mind, the ones buried so deep that only you know how they still ache. People see the outside and think success is smooth, clean, polished. But underneath it all, victory is jagged, messy, torn apart and stitched back together again. The scars are what prove you fought. The scars are what prove you didn't just talk about it. You survived it. Every line carved into you is a story that says, I was here, I bled, I broke, but I didn't disappear. Funny thing is, society teaches people to hide their scars, to cover them with makeup, with fake smiles, with rehearsed speeches about how easy the climb was. They'll tell you it was luck, timing, a little talent, maybe a sprinkle of discipline. They leave out the nights of screaming into the pillow, the mornings when they couldn't get out of bed, the moments they thought it was over, because scars don't sell as well as polished images. Scars scare people because they remind them that greatness isn't handed out, it's carved into flesh. You want to know the truth. The scars are the only things that can't be faked. You can fake confidence, fake success, fake wealth, fake happiness, but you can't fake the cracks in your soul. You either have them or you don't. And those cracks, those cuts, they tell the truth about what you've endured. They tell the truth about what you've lost and what you've clawed back. They're the receipts of survival, the proof that you walked through fire and made it out smoking. Without scars, your victory is just decoration. With scars, your victory is undeniable. And maybe that's why the strongest people you'll ever meet aren't the ones with the loudest mouths, but the ones with the deepest wounds. They don't need to boast, because their very existence is proof enough. Their walk carries weight. Their eyes tell you stories they don't even need to speak. They're different because they've touched pain in a way most people run from. And once you've tasted that kind of pain, you're not impressed by applause anymore. You know the real reward isn't what people hand you. It's what you survived when nobody was watching. But here's the twisted part. Scars don't just remind you of battles lost, they remind you of battles won. Every scar is a checkpoint. A moment you thought you couldn't make it past, but you did. You didn't stop at the wound, you walked through it. The scar is the evidence that healing took place, that you refused to stay broken. It whispers to you in the dark, if you survive that you can survive this too. That's why scars are priceless. They're not shame, they're maps. Maps of the journey that turned you from ordinary to unstoppable. Most people want success without scars. They want power without pain, glory without grit, the crown without the cross. But the universe doesn't work that way. It demands payment, and scars are the currency. Every inch of your struggle, every cut, every bruise, it's all part of the price. And the ones who don't have scars, they didn't pay it. They didn't fight for it. They didn't bleed for it. Which means when the storm comes again, they'll break because they were never built to last. So look at yourself. Look at the scars you carry, physical or invisible. They are not ugly. They are not shameful. They are your medals, the kind that can't be stolen, the kind that can't be faked. They are what separate you from the ones who gave up. And the day you stop hiding them, the day you stop being ashamed of them, is the day you understand that you've already won more than most people ever will. Because victory isn't about looking perfect. It's about looking at the wreckage, the scars, the bruises, and knowing you're still standing when everything else tried to bury you.